I mean, whatever way you slice this one, it's going to be a grim few years for the residents of Birmingham.
Oh, it certainly is, Ian. Due to the disastrous mismanagement of the council by this Labour administration, people are being asked to pay 21% more in council tax. And remembering that since they came to power in 2012, that means the increase is now at 77%.
I mean, these are huge figures. Lots of reasons behind this. I mean, we can talk about mismanagement. There were some other, what they would describe, the governing Labour Party would describe as out of their control. What's your response to that?
Not really, no. I mean, if you look at the money that's provided by central government, Birmingham has more to spend per dwelling than Manchester or Leeds. So Birmingham is treated quite well in terms of the funding that it gets from government, and government funding represents about 80% of Birmingham's income. No, what's happened in Birmingham to cause the bankruptcy is the direct consequence of a series of terrible misjudgments that have taken place over the decade that I've been a councillor. But just recently, the two that have really tipped it over the edge are the failure on the equal pay administration that Labour didn't undertake, and also their failure to implement a new accounting system, the Oracle implementation, which has been a complete train crash. I mean, it was supposed to cost 20 million. The cost is now exceeding 100 million. And we're still not in a position where the officers have accurate accounting information.
Now, regardless of where anybody sits politically, despite the fact that you opposing, of course, the governing party, there's nothing that can be done now. These cuts are going to have to happen. What will that look like in practice for residents in your area?
Yes, that's right. As you said, well, in your introduction, you said 300 million of tax cuts. Well, I think you meant 300 million of savings. So the council has to take 300 million pounds off each year's current account expenditure. And it's doing that by a mixture of council tax increases, savings in terms of reduction of services, but that's not going anywhere near far enough. They're having to sell off all sorts of different assets. And even when they've done that, they're still going to have to borrow more money from government at premium rates. So it's a whole range of things. But it's remarkable, isn't it, that, you know, it's hard to imagine any sort of area of commercial commerce where somebody would do such a terrible job for you, and their response would be to ask for a 21% price increase. Yes. And yet, you know, here we are in government. Yep. The worse they perform, and the more of your money they lose, the bigger the council tax increase they seem entitled to ask for.
So we're going to be looking at slashing bin collections. They could go down to every 2 weeks. Some were saying every 3 weeks. Correct. I don't know if that's even possible. A hike in council tax, no nice flower displays outside the bullring. I mean, the list goes on, I would imagine.
Oh, it's significant. For example, the library budget has been cut by 2/3, which I think effectively means that 2/3 of the city's libraries will have to close. Wow. As you rightly say, we're going from weekly to fortnightly bin collections. And there's a whole host of other things. But I think another important point to remember here is that Labour have known about this situation since last July, right? Maybe even further than that. And yet it's taken them 7 months to bring this budget here today. And even now, it's not really a budget, Ian, because it's full of reviews. You know, it's saying things like, we'll review the provision of library service, we'll review the provision of youth services. So even now, they don't actually know specifically what they're going to do. And in order to get to this point, to try and balance the budget, they've had to agree to extra funding from government. So they haven't even now, in terms of having to make these savings, they haven't even now been able to identify about 40% of the specific savings that they have to make. Yeah. So it's a very poor process.
This is breathtaking incompetence. I think we can agree on that. Meirion, thank you. Meirion
We certainly
Jenkins.
can agree on that, yes.
Indeed.